Hey guys, it's Forever Red here with Team Raper, and today I wanted to do a quick deck discussion / combo tutorial for the Altergeist deck. So with the new Master Rule coming out, in my personal opinion, I think this is going to be one of the, if not the strongest control deck has in the format. It has a very good matchup against Shadow because it can main or even side deck cards like Imperial Order, Anti-Spell Fragrance, you gain pluses off of activating those cards, obviously. So I feel like the deck is a very strong contender for the next format. So I wanted to go over a couple of things for any players looking to pick up the deck, that kind of thing. So before we get started, I wanted to talk about a couple of interactions. And if you're picking up the deck and you don't pick up the right cards, the right print of the cards, excuse me, you may be confused as to what happened with the deck when it first came out. So when it first came out, these two cards had Konami screwed up. Excuse me. They screwed up the wording on these cards. Originally, I'll start with Manifestation here. Originally, this card said, let me read it out here. Target one Altergeist monster in your graveyard. That's the cost. Special summon in attack position and equip it with this card. So this is actually the old print, and I'll show it to the camera real quick so you guys can read that. This is the old printing of the card. This has actually been eroded to the same as the OCG. So instead of saying and equipped, it says and if you do equip. So because of that clause and this being a normal trap, this does not have to remain on the field in order to resolve. So something that you can do is, let's say I have a Marionetter in my graveyard that I want to summon. I activate my manifestation, and I have a face-up personal spoofing. So one play that is completely valid, because this does not have to be on the field when it resolves, is you can chain personal spoofing to the activation of manifestation. Targeting was the cost. So we shuffle this back into the deck, get our search, and this will still resolve as Chain Link 1. So you get your Marionetter back on the board. It still does have to be in attack position, just to clarify that, because part of manifestation, basically at that point you just resolve as much as you can, and this states it has to be in attack mode. That's part of the condition of summoning it. So just to make sure that that is clarified. Now, conversely speaking, this card was also eroded from when it first came out. Let's see here. This is also the original print. So this card was significantly debuffed by this original print. So I'm going to put it up to the camera so you guys can read it. And you guys can't read it backwards, so I'll read it out to you guys. So gains attack equal to the Altergeist monster it points to when a spell or trap is activated. Now this is where the errata comes in. Quick effect, you contribute an Altergeist monster and negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. So the new errata, it says or effect, and that's actually a huge thing. So let's say, for example, I have a monster pointing to it, and I'm in the mirror match, and my opponent goes to activate their personal spoofing. If this had not been eroded, I couldn't do a damn thing about it. But because it has been updated to the OCG ruling as well, we can still activate the effect of the trap card activating on the field. That's what it means by an effect. Another example of this would be like Spiral Resort's search effect. You can sacrifice an Altergeist monster he points to negate and destroy their Spiral Resort. A third example of this would be sorry, all these stupid ads. My apologies. A third example of this against something like, well, there's actually not really a good example for Shadows, but this card is one of the main reasons why you have such a good matchup against them, because like in the Invoke Shadow matchup, they can super play this into a Purga Trio, but more than likely they will have already done that using their All Mirage and their invocations. So, I mean, that is something they can do, but it's not a likely scenario. And you plus off of that anyway. So you can grab like a Conquery or Multi-Faker or something off of that just to further disrupt them. And to be completely honest, like the deck builds pretty fragile boards, just a lot of decks struggle to get around them. Okay, so I just wanted to talk about that interaction. I know huge shout outs to Tombox. When this errata first occurred, he did a very great job explaining it in his video, so please check him out. I'll put a link in the description to his channel so that you can check that out. It is a rather old video, so you can also search it up on YouTube. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is what does Master Rule 2020 do for this deck? Well, Master Rule 2020 doesn't really do a whole lot for this deck. This deck is a link-based archetype. So in all honesty, it really doesn't do a whole lot. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could run a Abyss Dweller or something like that. I mean, the only thing that it really affects is your ability to use Waking the Dragon. So instead of using up your extra monster zone, which does matter in this deck, you can summon these to the main monster zones and not have them take up that slot. So, I mean, that really is the only plus side to this deck in Master Rule 2020. It is a link-based archetype, so it doesn't gain any inherent buffs from that. The only real, yeah, I mean, that's just about it. Like, and the same thing with like Super Poly and the sideboard, which my sideboard is going to change a lot between now and regionals. I'm sure I will end up like, you know, cutting this package or finally cutting that piece of crap. Where did my other Hextia go? That's what I want to know. I have no idea where it went. Yep, there it is. It's in the deck. So, I mean, you can like cut the Prime Banshee. It's not pivotal to your combo at all. Like, you can cut these 4 run Super Poly targets like Almarduke, Earth Ignister, keep the Boral Sword in, and then just run like a Starving Venom or something. So I mean, the extra deck is extremely flexible as long as you have the 3 Hextia. So I just wanted to talk about that for a moment, because again, I have a regional shortly after that rule change occurs. So getting on to like the bread and butter combos that this deck does. This deck isn't a combo deck. Like, well, it is, but it isn't. Like, most people are like, no, it's just a control deck, just your standard stop your opponent from playing Yu-Gi-Oh kind of thing, which is a semi-accurate statement. But the thing of it is that the deck can push a lot more than you think if you know how to do the plays right. I mean, here are the 5 monsters that you use in the deck. Like, this is it. And what most people do, what most new Altergeist players end up doing, is they'll summon their Faker, they'll summon their Solkidus, they'll bounce the Faker to bounce their opponent's shit, and then they'll rely on their traps to further disrupt this. And I know this because this is what I've been doing for weeks, until finally I saw a video by DC. Huge shout out to him. I'll put a link to that video in the description. That showed me that there is a lot more complex combos that you can do with this deck if you are set up properly. So, for example, let's say the previous turn I have my Solkidus still on the board. Okay, I still have the Faker in hand. Okay, the next time I go to activate Faker, I can do this. Okay, so once I have at least 4 monsters on the board, preferably these 4, we can get going. So we're going to draw a blank card into our hand. Okay, and obviously we would also preface having like, I just kind of want to show the best case scenario because this is pretty standard. Like this is all searchable. Everything on this board is searchable. This is not, but I mean, they had to. They couldn't call it Altergeist something or other because of the simple fact is that this deck would be broken. It would still be tier 0. Like it would be the tier 1, I'm sorry, not tier 0, tier 1 control deck. And, you know, it went years without being that. Okay, so obviously once you get 4 monsters on the board, you can either go straight into your Boral Sword or you can go into your control combo. Your control combo will consist of, let's say this is the center zone, this is under an extra monster zone, this is under an extra monster zone. So, you know what, and for actually the sake of this video, yeah, it doesn't matter. Let's say this is attached. So these two are a pair. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to maximize the value out of this combo. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Marionetter with the manifestation and the Sulcitus specifically. I'm going to make my first Hextia, and I'm going to put it in the zone pointing to my multi-faker so that it's currently sitting at 2700 attack. Then Chainlink start to resolve. Sulcitus effect activates and adds some manifestation to our hand. Okay, that's pretty important. So from here you can do one of two things. So long as you don't plan on using the multi-faker, and I'll show a different play line of this so that you can keep your faker. You can link these two away into an IP Mask Arena. Now the reason that this can be good is you can make an Avermax under IP during your opponent's turn. You know, and now that I'm thinking about it, I just want to talk about this interaction really quick, just to clear some things up. And if you need further clarification, I did just become a judge, but my roommate also happens to be a head judge, so I did clarify this with him. So with these two cards, if you actually read their effects, Boral Sword, let's talk about him for a second. He has an effect that can't be responded to, and everyone gets this mixed up. The effect that can't be responded to is the effect to change a monster on the field to defense position to gain a second attack. So, and then the once per turn effect is when he declares the attack. This is on during the battle phase, during the attack declaration step. So during the attack declaration step, he can activate his effect to have the opponent's monsters attack and gain that attack, basically. Okay, so the interaction between these two is because his effect, let me read it to you really quick. Let's see, if this card battles a special summoned monster, quick effect, you can make this card gain attack equal to that opponent's monster's attack during that damage calculation only. So the way that this interaction would work is on attack declaration, you would have his attack to 15, and he would gain 15 going up to 45. During damage calculation, quick effect, gained 4,500 attack, so he immediately goes up to 6,000, and it's basically a stalemate. You win the battle, they take 3,000 damage, but he can't be destroyed in battle. Okay, they get a second attack, they can do it again if they want. This is once per battle, so once per attack declaration. So this can keep activating. It is not a once per turn effect, it is a once per battle. But I just wanted to clarify that really quick because there just seems to be so much confusion going around about this interaction. So if you want to get over a Boral Sword, summon a Neighbor Max. It'll win every time. Okay, so I'm going to go over the alternate line of play. I'm just going to put them sideways so that you guys can see. Okay, so the other line of play is if you use Manifestation to revive that. I mean, it's basically the same, except you end up on Hextia, and then any of these monsters. Should be like 3,000 and either 27, 2,000, 23, or 31, which is solid. In this particular case, you would also have a monster negate to send that, or to send that, a spell or trap negate, or 2 spell or trap negates, and this is why it can be so strong against the upcoming. The up and rising in popularity should all invoked. Now, the thing you have to be careful of is you have to make sure that you negate their magical meltdown or send it to the graveyard using Meluseek so that you can negate that. Because Hextia does negate activations and effects. But if it's a fusion spell, you can't, like, you can attempt to negate it, you can pay the cost, you can pay 2,000 life points with a Solemn Warning, but at the end of the day, the card will not be negated because there's a static effect on the field that says can't be negated. You can still attempt, but it can't be negated. But other than that, I mean, the deck has probably the best Shaddoll Invoked matchup, just because also that we run different attributes, and a lot of which, like this, can turn into a Raiden, a Regen, that turns into a Makaba, that turns into a Kaluga, that doesn't turn into anything. So, like, our super poly targets are our one of Multifaker, our Marionetter, and maybe this, but again, it's like, if you manage your resources right in that matchup and keep shit besides this out of the graveyard, you'll be fine. Like, you don't really control a lot of monsters with this deck, so believe it or not, I've actually had people hand me lava golems. I've had people hand me kaijus, and I just say, okay, and start beating their face in with it. Like, it's pretty crazy. That people will try that kind of shit just to prevent you from bouncing something. It's like, it's pretty crazy. And it's like, okay, whatever. But other than that, guys, I think that's all I got. This video is probably long enough. I just wanted to do a quick discussion about the deck, some combos, some rulings. For any of you Yu-Gi-Oh! Head judges out there, if I explain something wrong, please let me know. I'm still pretty new to the judge program as well as making these videos. So I'd appreciate any feedback I can get. Anyway, guys, this has been Forever Red with Team Reaper. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day. Please like, comment, subscribe.